But in the battle against the Great Warming, a bigger challenge is making that kind of difference with much larger slices of the population across America. Evangelical Christians number over 30 million in the U.S. alone. They're one of the biggest, most influential groups in the country, and they take their beliefs very seriously. However, for many years, the relationship between most evangelicals and environmentalism has been chilly at best. But the concept of creation care is taking hold. And recent surveys show that almost half of their members believe a clean environment is a high priority for them and their families.
So what explains the fact that they know this is important and yet have largely sat on their hands? And there are a lot of explanations, one of which is that, well, environmentalism has sort of a left-wing tilt to it in their minds. They haven't had pastors who simply preached on the importance of creation care. Most have not had one sermon in their entire biblical life on this topic, if you can believe that.
Far from the megachurches of Colorado, California, and the South is someone who may be just what the doctor ordered. In fact, Matthew Sleeth is a doctor.
I was an emergency room physician and had been for a decade and a half. And I began to notice the number of patients who had diseases that were environmentally related. When I was a child, no one had asthma. Today, many, many people have asthma. When I started medicine, the textbook said about 1 in 19 women would get breast cancer. Now it's around 1 in 10. And I began to feel like I was straightening deck chairs on the Titanic, and that if I really cared about health, I was going to have to think a little bit more globally. And I also felt the calling from God to expand my mission.
2 years ago, the Sleeths made some dramatic changes. He quit his job and moved the family to a much smaller community. Again, he began studying both the faith and the science he'd grown up with.
Science is certainly a part of, a vital part of my thinking. Faith comes in when I say, what should I do about it personally? What do I owe the future? And how can I be a part of the right decisions now?
In his new role as a religious educator, Matthew's first audiences have ranged from church and college groups to kids from the local community.
How long a glacier's been
Don't
there.
the tree huggers put nature above God?
Well, I've heard a lot of Christians who have said that the end of the world is coming anyways, so it shouldn't really matter what we do.
A warmer Earth wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for the human race, but that the speed of it warming up is indicating another problem.
How do we know who to trust? How do we know who to believe?
So let's think of that totally from the terms of Christianity.
What could I do? What could my family do? And as a church, what can we do to help out and reduce global warming?
An example I frequently give is that if every household in the United States changed 5 light bulbs to compact fluorescence, we could take 21 coal-powered plants offline tomorrow, and that would be the same as taking 8 million cars off the road, 1 trillion fewer pounds of greenhouse gases, and thousands fewer deaths. So we could save lives tomorrow just by changing light bulbs. I think that as global warming becomes something you can't ignore, that Christianity is ideally suited to step in and do something. As C.S. Lewis said, Christianity is a fighting religion. You know, if it doesn't have a fight on its hands, it's not happy in a way.
For the evangelicals, the fight may just be starting.
Evangelicals, as we know, comprise between 40 and 50% of the GOP, the Republican base. And so if the largest single population group in the Republican coalition were to say, this is important, we want you to take, as our leaders in the Republican Party, leadership on climate change, on clean air, on pure water, on the stewardship of our natural resources. If evangelical Christians were to say that, I dare say Republicans will listen. This president, George Bush, will have to listen. The Republicans running for the White House in 2008 will have to listen.
See how